everyone. My name is Padmini Nidumolu, and I'm the co-founder of Lean and Agile for Women, an organization and initiative to bring women thought leaders and women practitioners in Lean and Agile spaces across the globe together on a common platform. As part of this initiative, we have many sub-initiatives going on. One of them is called Lean and Agile 100 or LIA100, where we bring women thought leaders to the community so we can share, support, lean in, and learn from each other about how we have done what we have done and how we can learn from each other and grow as a community. So this interview is a part of LIA100 initiative. And today, as part of this interview, I'm really, really honored to introduce you to an amazing thought leader who is not just a speaker, author, but she's a fantastic coach, an expert in managing high technology product development, and much, much more. She has written the most sought after books, and you all must have read her books. But some of them are Manage Your Project Portfolio, Project Portfolio Tips, Manage Your Job Search, Predicting the Unpredictable, Create Your Successful Agile Project, and just many more. She also co-authored numerous other books and workshops and publications. And on her website, you'll see several blogs and articles that she published to her credit. She's known as the Pragmatic Manager, and she provides frank advice for your tough problems. I really love that. She's also known for her outstanding contributions in the fields of management coaching, management consulting, project portfolio coaching, agile program management coaching, among several others. And also, a little bird told me that she has amazing time management skills. Let's find out more in her own words. Please join me in welcoming none other than Johanna Rothman. Hi, Johanna. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Padmini. It's so nice to be here. Thank you. That was very generous of you.
That was so deserving. So thank you so much for your time, Johanna. This means a lot to LIA100 and for me.
So, it's my pleasure. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually very greedy to know one thing. And in my introduction, I just said that you have amazing time management skills, undeniably. And I would like to get to this because this is the most challenging aspect of every woman's life with balancing family, career, and more. And I would like to know, how do you do what you do? You have books going on, workshops going on, you have, consulting, coaching, and just so much more. And I'm assuming you have only 24 hours in a day.
Oh, yeah. No, I have the same number of hours that you do. Yeah.
That's good to know. Thanks for confirming that. Now, please tell us how, how do you just get so much done, Joanna? What's the secret?
So anybody who's doing any form of agile approach will totally recognize what I'm going to say. I use rolling wave deliverables, and I finish something on all of my various projects every day. So it's not exactly stories, right? Stories are for products. But for example, even if I don't have much time to write in a given day, I always write 100 words. Just 5 to 10 minutes, write 100 words, and now, excuse me, I have a paragraph or a couple of paragraphs, whatever it is. It's probably more than 2 paragraphs. But I didn't spend much time on it, and I made progress. So I do a yearly plan like many other companies do. I say I want to produce these kinds of things over the year. I think I would like them at roughly these times. I'm a business just like any other business. And then I say, what's the smallest thing I can do to achieve that deliverable today? And that's what I do.
I love that. Okay. And so over a period of a quarter or a year, you have made progress in several layers of your goals.
Yes. So, for example, we are recording this in the middle of June.
Mhm.
Esther Derby and I have been collaborating on online workshops based on our best-selling book, Behind Closed Doors: Secrets of Great Management. So we finished one. We have published the one-on-one workshop. We are almost ready to publish the problem-solving workshop. Um,
Wow.
Oh yeah, Mark Kilby and I have been working on an online class for From Chaos to Distributed Agile Teams. And we also recorded a workshop, and we are in the final kind of verification testing to make sure I didn't screw up any of the videos, because I was the video editor. I mean,
Okay.
if you are editing videos for this, you know exactly what I mean. So
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure. I'm sure I can
yeah,
relate to that.
yeah. So I've been, we made progress. In fact, that's how Mark and I wrote that book. We got together for an hour every day and made a little bit of progress every day. So we always, well, not we, I can't claim this for everybody. I always overestimate what I can do in a day. I have I have way more things than I can ever get done in a day or a week, but I totally underestimate what I can do in a year. And that's the benefit of the rolling wave planning and the making small incremental steps to getting things done.
That's fantastic. So do something or, little contribution every day goes a long way.
Yep. Yeah.
That is such a beautiful advice. Thanks, Joanna. I'm going to implement
Good.
that right away. And so you're talking about your workshops, but I know that besides all the fantastic books that you've written so far, you have a Modern Management Made Easy book series coming up. And in fact, I gathered that the three-part, series to this, which is Practical Ways to Manage Yourself, which is, available on LeanPub. Practical Ways to Manage Others is also on LeanPub, and soon to, be published, Practical Ways to Lead in the Organization is also going to be up there. And this is all under, Modern Management Made Easy,
Yes.
series. And the fantastic books that you've written. In fact, a couple of folks that I was interviewing said, I asked them, what kind of books do you read? And they said ABC, 1 to 3 books. And they said anything that Johanna writes. It was a blanket choice.
Wow.
That says it right there. So people love your books. I love your books, and so much to be said about them. So I would really like to know about, so several of us in the community would love to share our stories, our own perspectives, our ideas, and everybody has a journey and a story to say. But we pull ourselves back, myself included, because of apprehensions, fear of judgment, fear of misunderstanding or being misunderstood, or even fear of not being able to represent ourselves well. And most of us just never take that first step. And I'm making an assumption here that you probably had these barriers and internal dialogue back when you were contemplating your very first publication. If that assumption is right, would you like to share how you overcame that barrier?
Oh, yes. I actually had this conversation, I think, with Jerry Weinberg back in the late 90s. This is before I really got started writing, and I said to him, "Who am I to tell other people all of this stuff? I mean, I know I'm right." Every time I say stuff like that, people should laugh. But I was right about this particular thing. I said, but somebody's already written about that. And he looked at me in only the way Jerry could do and said, nobody has lived your life. Nobody
Yes.
has your stories. Nobody has your experience other than you. And if you want people to know what you have done, yes, you got to actually sit down at the keyboard and write it out. And If you want to start with articles, because articles are much, much easier than a book, start with articles, which I did. And he said, and don't worry if people don't like something that you write. Everybody, well, not, how did he put it? He said it in a way that I cannot remember. Um, it was something to the effect of, not everybody is going to be your fan. That's fine, right? And
Yeah.
you will make mistakes because you make mistakes elsewhere. So just admit the mistakes, fix them, and go on. That's why we have reviewers for books, right? So
Hmm.
if you've ever seen the list of reviewers at the front of my books, I still take total responsibility for anything I got wrong,
Yeah.
but I have reviewers so that they help catch me if I fall apart, right? If I make a
Yeah.
mistake. So I think it's really important to say, um, what is, again, and I'm going to use these agile approaches, what's the smallest piece of content I can create that will help people see my perspective, my context, how I've succeeded in some place that might help other people. Because
Hmm.
one thing that you've seen in all my books, I don't tell you that this is the one right way. I say, this has worked for me here, this has worked for me there. You might find something else. These are the commonalities that I think you would like. I don't believe that there's one right way to write. I don't think that there's one right way to publish. But as long as if you have a story, if you have ideas, it's very important to get them out there, especially in the
Yeah.
Agile community. We don't have enough explanations of what we do right and wrong in the
Yeah.
Agile community. That's one of the reasons I shepherd experience reports.
I love that. And, in fact, you shepherd experience reports as part of Agile Alliance, and you've been a program chair for several years associated with Agile Alliance.
Yeah.
And, speaking of which, your association with conferences in general. I mean, you've been speaking at conferences and you've been associated with the conference so closely. And, there are different schools of thoughts where, some women think and fear that they probably are not, ready to share their story in a conference on a platform as big as a conference. They're apprehensive again to stand in front of the audience and share their story. Is there anything that conferences in general, the organizers included, can be intentional about creating a space for women who are wanting, especially new speakers, who are wanting to come and share their story? Because we don't see that very commonly explicitly stated. They're all well intended, but it's not explicitly stated. What are your thoughts on that?
So I would recommend that other women do what I did, which is to start local. So there were several organizations around the Boston area, and especially I did not want to travel when my children were quite young. I started my business when they were 6 and 2. And I said,
Wow.
I know, I really did not want to be, I mean, away one night every quarter. Yeah, that was great because I would sleep. But away for a week, yeah, that really wasn't quite what I wanted. So I
Yeah.
did a lot of speaking locally, and there were now we have meetups. We had professional organizations that have totally changed since then. But I strongly recommend everybody think about how can I speak in a given month, right? How many can I speak somewhere at a given month at any of these meetups or professional groups? So I practiced my skills locally, and then
Mm.
if you speak 12 times a year, you're already pretty good.
Yeah.
Then you submit a talk to a conference, and I did not submit to the big Agile conference until I think until 2006, because
Mm.
until then I it was all technical talks. So
Mm.
why would they want me, right? So I submitted elsewhere, and I was already a pretty well-known keynote speaker in the early 2000s, but because I was already going to Australia and New Zealand at that time. So I think it's really important to say, how can I get practice and how much practice can I get? So I used to speak probably 20 to 25 conferences and locally, right? Locally and regionally and internationally every year.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you get the look for experience locally, practice, get the feedback, and then that gives you the self-esteem and the self-confidence to go farther. Because my big thing is, I have seen and been a victim of the glass ceiling or the glass cliff, but I keep pushing to get there so that I don't actually fall off the cliff or bump into the ceiling.
Right.
Because I figure
Yeah.
the least I can do is make sure I'm not creating the ceiling,
Right.
right? That I am working towards my betterment. So I can say, look, here's my resume of all my talks. Here's a video, here's a this, here's the that. And that has served me well.
Right.
So there's a limit to the preparation I would recommend. Right? I'm not suggesting that everybody just speak locally for 3 years. No, I think you should extend yourself and go out as far as you can. But I think
Right.
expecting conferences to extend a hand, they have other things to think about. Like, how are we going to
Okay.
break even? What is the
Okay.
hotel doing now? What, right? Do we have a
Yeah.
bookstore? And the problem is, I've been on the organizing end of conferences, and the organizing end is it's kind of wacko. It's not like
Yeah.
any other project, and you have a deadline, and that deadline does not move. So the people
Yes.
organizing, even the program people organizing, have a lot to juggle. Make it easier for them to pick you rather than for you to say, how can I nudge myself in there? Right? So if you
Okay.
make it
Yeah.
easy for them to pick you, they will.
That makes sense. And that brings me to the next question, right? Because you have done so much with particular organization or a particular conference for several years, and you've been in management consulting, management coaching for several years, you must have observed many trends, many patterns, many stories evolving, the then and now stories, with several themes around them. Can you share some of the most prominent trends that you have observed in your experience in the organizations or in the community, which stood out for you since the beginning when you started to where you are right now?
So I think that the biggest trend is that it almost doesn't matter the diversity in the company when it's small.
Hmm.
People are much more willing to think about, oh, that's a really great person. I will hire that person, because not so much for diversity, but because we need more people. And
Right.
then when there's a certain point where you get to be above a medium-sized company, and people with very specific attitudes and experience come into the company and say, only people I went to school with, or only people who look like me, or only people, only people, only people. So and it's very funny, I am still way too often the only senior woman in the room. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't understand this,
I
right?
can
So
imagine.
I have this nice little client in Florida there where it's about half women and half men in the senior leadership positions. They get a lot of stuff done. They needed help with their project portfolio because they had way too much in progress, but they understood how to collaborate together. And I've been in very large organizations where they say that they're doing something about diversity, especially gender diversity, and there is no
Yeah.
woman above the middle management level. So when I walk into the senior management meetings, they all kind of look at me and say, "Who is she? She's short, she's female, and now she has a role leader, right? Because of my vertigo." So, so I don't
Wow.
look like them, I don't act like them, and what they start to realize is that I have a lot of value and that maybe they need to think differently about how they hire and organize. Um, the more technologically, I'm going to put superior in quotes, they think that they're superior, not that they actually are. The company, the more the more trendy it is to have more younger men in senior leadership positions where they don't have the understanding or experience or even realize what they're missing. So one of the things I've done over the last, I don't know, 10 to 15 years is that when I work with these companies, they now say, "Oh, we should get ourselves some women," which is a very strange thing to say, but
Yeah.
I'm really glad that they're thinking that way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And then of course
Yeah.
they send that to, because I can't keep my mouth shut. I say, a black woman would kind of hit 2 marks there, and an Asian woman might hit 3, right? So, and I keep telling them that the more diverse the teams at every level of the organization, the better the products, because you're thinking differently. And
Right.
the better you want your products and the more you want to succeed, the more
Yeah.
diversity you need up and down and across the organization.
Right. Right. And that's a great trend that you have seen. And you also coach several people, Johanna, right? On various topics, on various themes.
Oh, yeah.
When you coach, do you see a trend or do you see an inclination from women to be in the management space, to be in the C-suite space, to lead organizations, to lead initiatives? Do you see that a whole lot, or is there still apprehension and self-doubt, lack of confidence, etc.?
So I think that the people who come to me don't suffer self-doubt. I have roughly an even number of men and women as my clients for the coaching, and
Mm-hmm.
so I have seen a lot of program managers move into management, where while it's still called management, the tools and techniques are very different, right? Because
Sure.
now you're serving people as opposed to facilitating a program. So I've done a bunch of program management coaching where some of it was management coaching and some of it was program management coaching, and right. So
Right.
but I've seen a lot of that, and I think that when people want a coach or a consultant and it's one-on-one, they have to have enough um, self-esteem, I guess is the best word, to say, I don't know all I need to know about that. I would like some help with that. And I will look for a consultant or a coach who can give me that. And I find that those people already have the self-esteem that they need.
Hmm. Okay, but I mean there is a greater trend that is moving towards, the desired outcome of women getting into management layers or even the top positions.
Yeah, I think that there's still an issue with very, very senior management in very large organizations. I think when in the smaller organizations and the middle organizations, it's much better. It's much more effective to have women. Right, I see many more women all the way up and down the hierarchy, but in very
Right.
large organizations, uh,
Not much.
not
Yeah.
well, almost always in marketing and HR, not in technology, and
Right.
that's the part that concerns me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was my understanding as well.
Yeah.
So. it definitely aligns. Um, so you traveled the world pretty often, right? You traveled and you still, probably travel with domestic as well as international. And I ask this question quite often, and curious to get your thoughts. Do you see any cultural barriers or cultural differences, or even geographic barriers, when you compare how the lean mindset or agile mindset is perceived in the US or in the other countries? Is there any trend, or is there any common thread that you see?
So if you're aware of Hofstede's cultural differences by geography, that actually plays out really well for the agile approaches. So
Oh,
I did some consulting in Korea with Rebecca Werfsbrock, and our client actually said, we have a hard time getting out of the hierarchical thinking because that's how we work, that's how we
right.
are. And it was like that in Japan also when I went there. When I go to Israel, I love going to Israel and I love going to Scandinavia because everybody says, oh, well, the Scandinavians are so much more polite than the Israelis. But the Israelis question everything and everyone is sort of equal, right? So it's not the 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 hierarchical problem in Israel is not nearly the issue as it is in other places. And in Scandinavia, everyone is it's not so much that everyone is so nice, but people tend to be more courteous. So I find that eases the way into an agile transformation much easier. Um, the U.S. is not. Every company has its culture. I will say that there are certainly I certainly have clients in New York that are different than my clients in San Francisco. Um, but I'm not sure how much of that is geographic and how much of that
Yeah.
is just the local culture. So I do
Hmm.
find that more hierarchically bent countries tend to exhibit that same culture in the organization. And
Yes.
and companies that have subsidiaries in various countries might exhibit either the country hierarchy or culture or the parent company culture, and that really just depends on how much the parent company integrates that subsidiary.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And especially with a melting pot like the US, you see so many cultures coming in and trying to blend in. But if you look at individual cultures, you'll see the hierarchies and the command
Yeah.
and control coming from just their own cultures and traditions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so, just a generic question, as is my next one. Can you share a pivotal moment or a pivotal, something which kind of made you think, aha, in your career, in your life?
So I'm going to share this one that happened to me just in my senior year of college. I had just
Sure.
come off my very first team project. I know everybody's rolling their eyes. How could she only have a team project her last semester in college? It had been a disaster. It was a totally waterfall approach. It's not how I had ever done any of my other projects alone. It was a total disaster. We were not talking to each other. That's how bad it was. And I read Jerry Weinberg's The Original Psychology of Computer Programming, and I thought,
Hmm.
wow, egoless programming. People working as a team, people doing review for each other as support as opposed to picking at each other. I really want to do that. Because I was not sure altogether sure, even with a BS in computer science, I wanted to go into software because that project had been that bad. So, and I'm very happy to say that I stayed in software, and I'm really happy I did. And I met Jerry later, which is really really great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is just so encouraging to know. And I love that egoless programming concept.
Yeah.
If only every Agile team can adopt that.
Well, that's
That
the
would be
nice thing about,
fantastic.
yeah, that's why pairing and mobbing works so well.
Yeah, yeah, and more programming is catching up. So then what were some of the superpowers then, Johanna, that you have always carried with you, some of the strengths that you will never leave home without?
So I think that my biggest superpower is I'm not afraid to learn, which means I'm not afraid to be wrong. I'm not
Yeah.
afraid to stub my toe. But I'm not afraid to take that first step and say, what can I learn? Learning is a lifelong value for me. As you can see from the books behind me,
Yes.
right? I'm
And
I'm
that
always,
shelf just with your books.
yeah, these,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
There you
so
go.
yeah, I mean, I love to learn. So I think that not being afraid to learn is a really big piece of it.
So that's your superpower.
I think so.
You're a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And if you have to give a message or something that you swear by all your life, what would that quote or a message, to the community be?
So do not multitask, right? Do one thing at a
Mm,
time, make a little bit of progress, right? Even if it's only 5 or 10 minutes, do that one thing, do it to the best of your ability, and then go on. But focus on one thing at a time, even if it's not for very long. That has been, if there is a secret, that's the secret of my success.
this is such a timely advice that you've given, Johanna. In a world of disruptions, distractions, where multitasking is considered a great asset and strength, and we have come to kind of believe and convince ourselves that multitasking is the only way to live. This is just so timely and so valuable, and coming from somebody like you who is able to manage so much and accomplish so much and be so successful. Don't multitask and focus on increments of value is an absolute fantastic advice. Again, this is something that I'm going to adopt right away.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Johanna, for your time, your willingness to just come out and talk to all of us and share your thoughts and your journey. This is just very valuable to the community. Thank you so much.